Hello, everybody, and welcome back to
The Nerd Guys Podcast.
what is up, my friends? How are you? You chilling? You hanging? How are you doing on this day? I hope it's good. I'm hoping you're having a great day. I hope no orange beans are attacking you, right? So, as you might already be aware, but I'll remind you, if this is your first time, hello, welcome in. Welcome to the Nerd Guys Podcast. I'm Jamie Shadow 9.
And I'm Kitsune Sai.
And we're the Nerd Guys. We like to talk about lots of different things, from nerd stuff to music, and everything in between. Anything that we have relative knowledge of. And that's what our episode is today. Something that goes back to when both of us were kids. A series that couldn't continue, unfortunately. And actually today we're gonna have this is a special episode, quotes, because we're starting a new set of series here on the Nerd Guys Podcast, and this is the first of them, the Henshin series. And kicking off our Henshin series, what are we talking about today?
We're talking about a little show known as The Big Bad Beetle Borgs, aka one of my favorite series as a kid.
Hell yeah, let's go. Do you guys remember Big Bad Beetleborgs? Let us know in the comments. If you do, who is your favorite Beetleborg and why? I'm gonna tell you right now, this is gonna be a really good episode because I did not remember any of this. I did not remember any of the things that I researched for this episode, and I was like, oh man, there's even something in here that I'll talk about later. That was like, wow, that's kind of funny. But yeah, how about you, friend?
Yeah, this is one of those series that for some reason I thought I remembered, and then when I actually started looking into it, I'm like, oh crap, I actually didn't remember this, or oh man, that's not the way I remember this. And then, looking at when it aired, I'm like, oh, no wonder I don't remember this like this, because I was actually a little kid. All my memories from when I was like super young, aka like 2, 3, and 4, nothing probably happened the way that I remember it happening. So yeah, that's why this show is kind of like one of those gray area memories for me where I'm like, yo, I remember that. And then I watch it and I'm like, I don't remember it happening like that.
I love that. I do love that because, like, I think for me, Beyblade is like that. Because like there's some things I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that about Beyblade, and then I watch like some videos. I'm like, wait, hold on, what? I don't remember. I don't remember that. What did that come from? All right, all right. Let's start with the history of Big Bad Beetleborgs. Would you like to start, or shall I?
Sure, I can take it. So, Big Bad Beetleborgs. The series started its run on September 7th, 1996, and ran all the way until March 2nd, 1998. This series only had 2 seasons consisting of 88 total episodes. The second season of Beetleborgs was known as Big Bad Beetleborgs Metallics, and it pulled from, whoa, that P was like super crazy when I like said that. Beetleborgs Metallics will pull from what was it? Juko, yeah, there you go. Juko B Fighter Kabuto, which was the successor series in Japan of Juko B Fighter, which Beetleborgs, the original series, pulled from. Now, Big Bad Beetleborgs would go on to have 53 episodes, while Metallics would only have 35. Partially because Saban ran out of footage from this Japanese counterpart.
All right. Yeah. That's
I'm sorry, like I'm looking at our notes and I'm like, yeah, it's basically the whole thing. Like
that's basically the whole thing.
there were 2 seasons, 88 episodes, which is impressive even by today's standards.
Mm-hmm.
Repurposed footage from Juko B Fighter and B Fighter Kabuto for both Beetleborgs and Beetleborgs Metallics, and the series itself was more of a lighthearted series for, you know, its American counterparts. The whole deep tone, dark, gritty, violent nature of like Juko B Fighter and B Fighter Kabuto weren't really acceptable by FCC standards. So to tone it down, they kind of did things like put the little comic overlays over top of some of the footage, put like onomatopoeias over top of it, like zap and pow, like it was a comic book, to hide some of the grittier things.
Not to mention, it was more like a sitcom, unlike its counterparts, Power Rangers, V Trooper, and Masked Rider, which was a different approach, especially at the time.
Yeah, Saban saw an opportunity for a new type of show, and they decided to strike. The crazy thing is, during the airing of Beetleborgs actually became more popular for a short period of time than Power Rangers.
Now, I have a question. Which Power Ranger series was airing at the time of Beetleborgs?
Zeo.
And?
MMPR.
Nope. There's another one. Zeo's the popular one. Which one comes after it that's the unpopular one?
I don't remember if it was In Space or Lost Galaxy. In Space came first.
In Space came first, but In Space is after this series. I'll give you another hint. It has cars.
It's like a bunch. Oh, you're talking about Turbo.
Yes, I am. I'm gonna toss your salad.
What did he say?
Yeah, so Turbo, this is a very interesting fact because Beetleborg Metallics is the series that would become more popular than Power Rangers, and it was kind of obvious to see why. Power Rangers Turbo was also airing at the same time, but due to the nature of Turbo, if you know, you know, and also the fact that the larger audience wasn't really that big of a fan of Justin, Beetleborgs became
AKA Black Red Ranger.
No, the Kid Ranger.
Oh, my bad. Justin, AKA Kid Blue Ranger.
Yeah.
And being put in adult situations.
Yep.
I'm sorry, I know, what was his name? Troy? Not Troy.
TJ,
yeah. He wasn't, like, super popular amongst fans either.
Yeah, which is interesting.
But I think we went over that in a previous episode. So
yeah. But yeah, it's kind of funny because there's something else in here we'll talk about later that I think would have made Turbo at least a little bit more popular at the time. And yeah, we'll talk about that later. But it's very interesting. All right. So now that we got the history going, let's talk about A Bug Warrior's Journey. essentially our story of these 2 seasons. One day, 3 average kids, Andrew McCormick, Drew, Josephine McCormick, Joe, and Roland Williams, are dared to enter a supposed haunted house. This dare to enter the Hillhurst mansion leads our young protagonist into the clutches of Universal classic monsters, so like Dracula and all them. These monsters trying to eat them, and just when this might be the end for the kids, they accidentally bump into a pipe organ. Out comes an unlikely ally, a phasm named Flabber, who offers the kids one wish. They choose to become the superheroes from their favorite comic, the Big Bad Beetleborgs. However, this also brought the villains, the Magnivores. And that's basically the setup for the entire series. Like, there's some more stuff to that, to season 1, but that's basically how the story begins and how we meet the Beetleborgs and their villain. And then I guess I'll go over. Oh, do you wanna make a comment about that, or should I?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say like the whole premise behind it, like Jamie said, was 3 kids get dared to go into a house. The significance of their wish is they're living in a suburban area, and the most popular thing for them is a comic shop, which is owned by one of the main characters. I want to say it's Drew, but I'm not sure. Um, but their family owns the comic shop, and at the time, the comic that is all the rage is Beetleborgs.
Mm-hmm.
So, as these monsters, who ironically enough, we all know them as the Mummy, the Wolfman, and Dracula, but Saban couldn't call them that because copyright. They were essentially made to wish for their wildest dream, which, you know, whenever you ask a genie for something, or a genie, quote unquote, in quotes, because again, Flabber is very similar to like Genie from, say, Aladdin, which also could have been a copyright issue. Genies don't really give you what you're asking for. I'm sorry, they give you what you're asking for in a literal sense. But in this case, Flabber was just like a little bit overzealous. He was like, "Oh, you want to be Beatles?" Turns them into Beatles. And then after they're like, "No, not Beatles, Beetleborgs." And they show him. He's like, "Ah, okay, cool." Turns them into like super powered kids from this comic. And then goes, well, if you're heroes, guess you need some villains too. And decides to bring the villains to life as well.
Yeah, Flabber was kind of a butthole.
I mean, as with any genie, it's just kind of like you can't have one without the other. You can't have good without the evil.
It's true.
There's always a catch.
Yeah, there's always a catch. And the dare for these kids to enter the mansion was some rich snobby kids named Van and Trip. They are integral to the story and serve as the rival kids.
Basically, this series version of Bulk and Skull.
Yeah. Something else to note here is there are some important characters that come up later on in like other series. So I thought I'd drop them or like references to them. So like um there's a part where they have a six-parter, and one of the villains, Vexor, created his own Beetleborg called Shadowborg, and Shadowborg basically beat them up, stole their powers, um, which forced our heroes to call upon another Beetleborg, the White Beetleborg, Blaster Beetleborg, a friend of theirs named Josh Baldwin. Now, um, the Shadowborg was destroyed. Um, and something interesting to note about the White Blaster Beetleborg is essentially Shadowborg and the White Blaster Beetleborg are like yin and yang, which you can't have one without the other. So unfortunately, after Shadowborg was destroyed, uh, Josh lost his powers, and then yeah.
Another funny thing to add is that like the red Beetleborg, I think it was. I think it was the red Beetleborg, if I remember correctly.
Mm-hmm.
Wound up being recast from like a male character to a female, but the way that they wrote it was that he had succumbed to the spell that turned him into a girl, but then Flabber casted a counter spell that let everybody else see him as he was. So if you're wondering why the one Beetleborg went from a little boy to a little girl, that's why. This was just like a really quirky series where it's like so much was going on and the writing of it was just kind of
All over the place.
yeah, exactly. Like it was like, hey, we're all pitching ideas. You know what? That's a good idea. That's another good idea. It's another good idea. Let's figure out a way to connect all these ideas. It's like Marvel right now.
Yeah.
Ooh, I just came at Marvel's neck. That's crazy.
It's kind of funny that you say that, because like when I read the whole thing about the White Beetleborg, I was like, and especially with the introduction of like the next character that we'll talk about, I was like, but that's kind of like, bruh, why did this person write it like that? What the heck? And why can't he fix it? I was like, that's kind of like just a glaring plot hole right there. But yeah, it's interesting. And not only that, but so we mentioned that Beetleborgs, Big Bad Beetleborgs, is 53 episodes, while Beetleborgs Metallics is only 35 episodes. I think that also kind of like shed some light on what was going on at the time. But again, I'll get into more of that when we talk about it. So let's move on. Now, Metallics began with a villain that was introduced sometime later in Big Bad by the name of Nukas. Nukas challenges our heroes to a battle. Not only does he curb stomp them, but he destroys their armor and weapons in the process. Now, our heroes were warned not to challenge Nukas by the Beetleborgs comic author Fortune. Now, Nukas discovers who his creator is and breaks him out of prison. This creator is Art's brother, Les Fortunes. Les becomes Nukas' second in command. The crustaceans are created, and this new army is ready to take over the world. However, our heroes aren't gonna throw in the towel. Art makes them new powers, armor, weapons, and vehicles. Thus, the Beetleborgs Metallics are born. and they are ready to face off against the crustaceans. What do you think about that?
Beetleborgs Metallics is like one of my favorite series, and I guess out of all of the Beetleborgs ethos, the only things that I really remember were the first episode and the Metallics characters, because I actually have the gold Beetleborg Metallic action figure
Mm.
and the silver Beetleborg Metallic action figure. I used to really like the series, especially when I was young, but I realize now that I liked it because I thought it was a part of Power Rangers. Like, to me, there was Power Rangers and then there was Beetleborgs. Like, it was a part of the same universe.
Yeah.
And I thought these were just, Power Rangers, like most kids across the nation did. And the thing that used to bug me was, I'm like, where are their Megazords at?
Oh yeah. Oh.
Why don't their Zords combine to make a giant mech? Like, where are their Megazords at? It wasn't until I got older that I realized, or that I learned, I should say, oh, these aren't a part of the same franchise. They're two different shows. Like, similar aspects, completely different storylines. Like, everybody's an armored fighter, but Power Rangers kind of have that lock on, hey, we're these masked fighters and spandex.
Yeah.
And we also have these vehicles that are giant, but they also combine and transform into a giant mech.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I really like personally. But when it came to Beetleborgs, for some reason, I was drawn to it. I liked it because I recognized it as Power Rangers. It was kind of like, again, it was kind of like the main Marvel Cinematic Universe versus whatever Sony got going on over in Sony's corner. And that's how I thought about it. And when I found out, oh man, this wasn't a part of like Saban's Power Rangers run, I was like, oh, so I kind of wasted my time watching this show. It was good, but I kind of wasted my time watching it because I was watching it in hopes of there being, something from Power Rangers in it. And mind you, I'm like, I don't know, 4 or 5 at the time. I don't really care. I just go, Beetleborgs, Power Rangers. And in my head, I associated both of them because they look similar.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And it's kind of funny because like Beetleborgs Metallics, I guess in a sense ramps it up when it comes to like the story and stuff, because like Less Fortunes being Art's brother, and the fact that they worked on comics together, that's something that's pointed out. And yeah, it does get interesting in a way, but I agree with you that it is very strange that these never crossed over, especially because like Saban was doing that a lot with a lot of its show. Like he had Masked Rider first, pretty sure. Yeah, if I remember, let me go look this up real quick just to make sure. But I'm pretty sure he brought over Masked Rider either sometime before Power Rangers or during Power Rangers. Oh no, nope. Now, 1995 is when Masked Rider first appeared on the scene. So Power Rangers was first. And Saban brought over Masked Rider and had Masked Rider crossover with Power Rangers. And then we also did TMNT in space. Not to mention, Power Rangers was also crossovering with itself. Mighty Morphin and the Alien Rangers. And then also Zeo and the Alien Rangers. So
And also,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and also, Power Rangers and Beetleborgs crossed over.
Yeah, we're going. There's something to that later, and that's what I'm alluding to. But it is kind of funny that this series was kind of like self-contained, and like I mentioned earlier, like Beetleborgs Metallics was more popular than Turbo, and especially like it gained more popularity than Power Rangers at the time. Now, another reason why Beetleborgs could not continue as a series is the next series um after the recent BG Fighter series was kind of a weird quirky one, and Saban didn't think that it would be good to bring that series over, so Beetleborgs was canceled.
Wasn't that called like B Fighter Kabuta or something like that?
Yeah, something like that. It was very like it took
It
a,
was for a younger audience.
yeah, it was for a younger audience. Yeah.
And everybody had that like chibi style,
Mm-hmm.
which, you know, they also kept the whole, hey, we have a super form that lets us transform into like the typical um Sentai Tokusatsu uh beetle fighter,
Mm-hmm.
but for the most part they stayed in like these chibi forms.
Yeah, so I can sort of imagine how hard that would have been. Um, but I always wonder what could have been, because all things considered, we are sitting on 30 years of Power Rangers and not all of it has been um fantastic. So I wonder what that would have looked like. I'm also curious as to why like Saban didn't continue Master Rider. That's something that we'll talk about on that episode. But Saban was doing a lot back then. Like he was running a lot of these shows in tandem with each other. I think at the time it was said that Saban was having his own shows compete to see which ones would be the most popular and which ones would be, you know, would draw in the most fans. And somehow Power Rangers won that. You know, despite being Beetleborgs being very popular, and despite I'm pretty sure Master Rider being very popular as well. Yeah, Power Rangers went on to have a series, you know, have its series continue for at least 30 years. All right, now time to talk about notable cameo. And this is what I was leading up to. The first notable cameo is Power Rangers Turbo versus Beetleborgs Metallics comic. There's a comic where the Power Rangers Turbo and the Beetleborgs have a crossover. First they battle each other because, you know, that's kind of, well, at the time that's very typical writing, because like even the Masked Rider crossover, like they fought him first and then they became friends to face off against the villains, and that's exactly what happened in this crossover. And what's so notable about it is this is, like I said, comic only. There's no actual Power Rangers Turbo and Beetleborgs crossover, which I think is kind of a missed opportunity, especially considering, as we've said multiple times, Beetleborgs was more popular than Power Rangers. So wouldn't it make sense to take your two series, like, you know, Power Rangers being a popular series and then Beetleborgs being a popular series, and then go, oh yeah, we'll just combine, you know, not combine them, but like make the have them have a crossover and have kids go, oh my god.
I mean, yeah, that would have been a thing to do, but at the time, Power Rangers was kind of like its own thing, and Saban, although they were good at adapting Super Sentai into like an American series, they weren't super good at least in my opinion, they weren't super good at adapting other shows and franchises to US based franchises. Plus, the whole concept of crossovers didn't really, again, in my opinion, start getting super popular until Power Rangers started doing crossovers between the two of them. Yeah. As well as like Nickelodeon coming out and being like, hey, we're going to cross over our most popular TV shows with the whole concept of the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour.
Oh,
that's just how I remember it. But
that one is so iconic. But it's true. You're absolutely right. Like, I say the Power Rangers crossover with the TMNT is one of like the ones that you'll hear about the most. Like one of those crossovers that you'll hear about the most, to the point where like now there are legacy figures of the Ninja Turtles as Power Rangers. I don't know why they're the Mighty Morphin. Well, I know why they're the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers because it's like comic book, but I think there all should be a version of them that are Space Rangers.
I mean, there's I don't know how you would say it, but like there's asking, like there's what they give us and then there's asking for more. So I mean, I think it's cool that they did the whole crossover thing, but like at least they gave us something.
Oh yeah, no doubt. All right, would you like to tell our friends about the other notable cameos?
Yes. So Power Rangers Zeo, Power Rangers in Space, Power Rangers Lost Galaxy, Lightspeed Rescue, and SPD all feature monsters, a main antagonist, and a well-known monster hangout. Stego Drag, Triple Saurus Rex, Crimson Creep, Borg Slayer, and Onyx Tavern, which are popular characters from the Beetle Borgs franchise.
And the Onyx Tavern is the monster hangout that is popular from the series. And it was the location in Lost Galaxy for when the Pink Ranger's Quasar Saber was taken.
I know the next one is kind of like the Mac Daddy of them all. It's probably the most iconic and probably has the most notoriety, but the Power Rangers Wild Force Forever Red special, that has to be the most well-known crossover for Beetleborgs outside of its own franchise, because it's crazy because like you had these iconic characters from a completely different show that was also just as popular as Power Rangers at the time, and they turned around and repurposed their images for a new series. And I thought that was really cool because to me that kind of like not justified, but it kind of like put some stock into me. This episode put a lot of stock into my ideas of, hey, Beetleborgs and Power Rangers are the same universe. They exist in the same ethos, even though they don't.
Yeah. There's also some interesting things. I forget. There's some other Rangers that play some of the Beetleborgs, but one that I know specifically, Walter Jones, the original Black Ranger. I think he played the black one or the green one. I can't remember.
If I remember correctly, he was the green one, I want to say.
Yeah, I'm thinking the green one too, but I don't remember. But yeah, he did play one of those. Well, what they were referred to in the special was remaining members of the Machine Empire.
Which is kind of on point because some of the Toku counterparts of the whole Bee Fighter,
a space sheriff.
yeah,
Yeah,
they had themes of like aliens, androids, cyborgs, uh,
yeah,
just stuff like that.
they were
And
they were referred to as the Metal Hero series.
so it's needless to say, or I'm sorry, it's safe to say that the ingenuity that went into all of these franchises, especially like Beetleborgs, since that's what we're talking about today, it was great because we were able to take something, write our own story, and reuse old footage to help visualize the story. And to me, I think they did a good job because as a child, I didn't really notice that, hey, this fight scene doesn't look like it belongs to this show. It looks like it belongs to something else.
Mm-hmm. I think.
And
Oh, good.
if you can do that, and in my opinion, Full of Kid, like that's an easy dub right there. You know, I wish this series would come back. I wish they would reboot it, but do their own thing.
Yeah.
How about you, Jamie?
Hey, it's Epsy. What's up, friend? For me, um I liked seeing the Beetleborgs in the Forever Red special because it but yeah, this was very, very cool, especially at the time, because I liked Beetleborgs as a kid myself. I always wondered what happened to them, and then when I saw them in this special, I was like, "Oh my god, it's the Beetleborgs!" Uh, I I do wish that we got the actual plot for Forever Red, um, like the actual thing that they were planning to do, um, because I mean, if you know, I guess I'll say a little bit. Their whole objective was to revive Serpentera to destroy the world, to get revenge for King Mondo and everything. Um, I thought it was a cool scene just to see them in there. I thought it was awesome when we got the fighting scene and everything. It was really cool to see them use those type of assets again. So yeah, I agree. I have some questions. So first question is, do you remember this Saban series? And well, of course, the both of us kind of do, but kind of don't. Should Beetleborgs return, provided that uh, the Japan series is still ongoing? I also agree that Beetleborgs should come back. Um, and I do agree that it would be cool for them to do their own thing. The only thing I'm kind of like weary of is the fact that I don't know if Hasbro is going to do it. Considering what happened with Cosmic Fury, and considering that like basically everyone has said that like Cosmic Fury is the last season of Power Rangers, I'm it kind of sucks, because I'm like, bruh, it shouldn't end there, and we should definitely continue doing more stuff. It's because there were rumors that Hasbro wanted to do Common Rider, and I was excited for that. So like, I think it would be cool for shows like Common Rider and BG Fighter slash freaking Beetleborgs were to run alongside Power Rangers, because it gives kids options, and then it also, like, in the same vein as Saban from back in the day, like, it kind of, you get that vibrant audience where like some people like one show, some people like all of the shows. um also kind of like brings us into like what's going on in like modern day times. Like, there are people who like Super Sentai, and there are people who like Kamen Rider, and then there are people who like both. So I feel like that level of like love and interest should be brought back. And the last question: what crossovers would have been cool to see the Beetleborgs in? What do you think, friend?
Um, I think it would have been cool to see a crossover between like in my opinion, Beetleborgs and Ninja Storm, just because there were Beetle Rangers. Seems like a missed opportunity. Like it could have been some weird plot over how the Thunder Rangers powers were tied into the Beetleborgs powers, and the only reason they have them is because these kids made this wish, so on and so forth. I feel like it's a missed opportunity. But for me personally, I think whenever you get a Toku show, like since they're all so similar, I'm always like, hey, they should just cross over at some point. I like crossovers, especially of popular franchises. Like if, say, Mask Rider, Power Rangers, and Beetleborgs all did a crossover, I would think it would be pretty cool, especially if they could do things like, say, give the characters that don't usually have mechs.
Yeah.
But with that, it comes planning and costume design and story writing and all this other stuff, which I'm like, I mean, you all have the ability to make these costumes. You can make new characters. Everything doesn't have to be reused. But ultimately, it comes down to, hey, how many toys can we sell and how low cost can we keep the production of this TV show?
Yeah, and
You know,
that is.
eh,
Oh, go ahead.
if it wasn't for money, we'd probably get some really good series. But personally, I am still of the camp that Disney needs to reclaim ownership of both uh Power Rangers and other Toku shows, because although they might not quote unquote write the best stuff or give fans what they want, it would be better, in my opinion, to revive the franchise than to just let it die in the state that it's in.
I have I 100% agree with everything that was just said. It's kind of funny because the Toku shows cross over like all the time. So like, you get a space sheriff in Super Sentai or Kamen Rider. You get some of other metal heroes in other shows, and like vice versa. So like, and I know like Toei is like a big company because like, they started doing like really these like action hero shows like back in the 70s and yeah, back in the 70s. But like still like Power Rangers is such a big name. Like it's such a big thing in in media that I do think that letting it kind of just die the way it is, it kind of it's kind of sad. It is, you know. I won't talk about it here, but like the things said about Cosmic Fury and um, not only you just said, but like the process of how that show went and how many more episodes were supposed to be a part of it, and just all this behind the scenes stuff that really could have made the show better than it was. um it it kind of makes me it's very reflective of like how Power Rangers has been over the last couple of years. And it's crazy because I thought if anyone could, sort of bring Power Rangers up a little bit, it would have been Hasbro. I mean, they own Transformers for like, yeah, I understand that not all of the things that they made for Transformers was good, but like,
You're talking about a company that owns the rights to a popular franchise that is a cartoon,
Yeah,
not live action.
I know, and I understand that, but like, I still think that they should be able to provide a similar vibe to how Power Rangers has been. Like even Disney was able to provide that similar vibe to Saban series. Like, and then there are some people that they're like, oh my god, the Saban series were better, and it's like, when I think about all of the series and Disney, I like the majority of them. There's probably like one, just like in the Saban series, that like I will point at and be like, yeah, this not good, bro. But otherwise, you know, so Disney did their thing, and they allowed the series to kind of be their own. So like, in the same vein as what you're saying, like, I would also prefer Disney to, get the rights to Power Rangers, because it would be cool to see, Disney you utilize like the new stuff that the future has, because Disney's got money like in like nothing. And then it would also be interesting to see them bring over other Toku series, because like I want to ask a question, but do you guys remember Kamen Rider Dragonite?
Yes.
That's gonna be a future episode, but like, Kamen Rider Dragonite is the perfect example of a show that could have been, and a series that could have been, but because of how it was handled, it doesn't exist. And or it doesn't exist on American TV. And I feel like that's sad. I do. As someone who watches Kamen Rider, on a regular, I can say that. It's kind of fascinating to me, because we could have original ideas and original things for the series, but we just don't. But yeah, that's the whole thing. So yeah, let us know the answers to all of these questions and more. And any final thoughts, my friend?
Yes. I always get angry talking about these shows because I'm like, we have the money, the notoriety is there, the brands are there. We just need a company to come along and make the show. Instead of trying to adapt it from something else, just make the show.
Yeah, I agree. I wholeheartedly agree. I wholeheartedly agree, because like, there were talks of, Power Rangers having it as an original series, and I think that's a great idea. We should do that. But what I was saying is, we need to like, throw it out there and see what happens. Like, we do need to take the right steps, but we do need to like go out and just do it. Cosmic Fury to me wasn't original enough. I mean, it had semi original suits, and it kind of did things a little differently. But Zed was the main enemy, and we were still using footage from its Sentai counterpart. Yeah. So, like, I think most of that is like Zord footage, because like the suits you can't take from Japan because of the original suits. So yeah, it's just Zord footage. But even in the Zord footage, I'm like, one of the things I thought about, I'm like, these suits and powers don't make sense with the Zords now, because they're not the same suits. They're sure as heck not going to be the same powers. Because like, Izzy, for example, she's like a saber-toothed tiger. What sense does it make that she would go from a saber-tooth to a chameleon? None. But anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us here on Zender Guy Podcast. Again, let us know what you think in the comments below. And if you have any topics or any other questions, throw them in the comments or come to our Discord and interact with us there. Also, leave a like and ring that notification bell if you haven't. I've been Jamie Shadow 9.
And I've been Kitsune Sai.
And we are out. Peace.